Back in my early 20s, I was invited to a meeting by a friend of mine. It's going to be a lucrative business opportunity, he told me, so I figured, what the hell, I'll go and see what this is all about. Turns out, it was another pyramid scheme being peddled by some fake celebrity or a low-level, quote, high roller who had given up his 7-figure income to pursue this incredible opportunity to become rich and be my own boss. We've all heard of these at some point in our lives. The one thing that stuck out to me, aside from the terrible acting and the fake applause from the audience, were that all of the slogans and acronyms this dude was throwing out every 30 seconds. Every one of these BS acronyms he threw out made these people even more excited to throw their money away while simultaneously making fools out of themselves in front of their friends and family. The word poor was acronymized as passing over opportunities repeatedly, as if to somehow imply that the reason that people were poor was because they didn't get involved with these pyramid schemes, unlike all of these brilliant people at this ridiculous meeting. Even though I wasn't as hip to the script as I am now, I could still sniff out a hustle from a mile away. Obviously, I didn't sign up, but thinking back on that night made me realize that there are a number of slogans that we as people have accepted as gospel truth for no other reason but that we've heard them our entire lives. But if you break them down and really think about them, a lot of them don't really make much sense, and some are even patently false. We've all heard expressions like beggars can't be choosers and better late than never since we were kids. These sayings have been around forever. Now, while there is some truth in some of these sayings, there are quite a few that are complete BS. And what a lot of men don't realize is that these gospel truths are holding them back, and they'll continue to hold them back until they see them for what they really are and eliminate them from their thought process. But here's another thing I've noticed. What most of these sayings also have in common is that women accept them as hard and fast truths regardless of context or circumstance. Now, that fact alone should set off our alarm bells. But because we're raised to believe that women are infallible, we dismiss the basic instinct not to put our trust in a woman's intellect or rationale. Now, all of that said, believing in this kind of BS because they make sense linguistically or poetically, that's par for the course for women. This is actually one of the easiest ways to hack a woman's brains and make them believe just about anything. Give anything, and I mean anything, an acronym. Make it rhyme, or give it some sort of ironic symmetry, and chicks will believe anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You see it in television, movies, memes, and especially advertising. Why else do you think ad agencies target females? It's because they know and understand that women are easily influenced by made-up proverbs and words of wisdom. All they have to do is make something sound profound or abstract, make sure it somehow rhymes, get a wordsmith to clean it up for the FCC, and voila, instant customers. But again, we expect this from women. But as men, we have the ability to see through the BS. We have the ability to cut through all of the jargon and shiny words and see something for what it really is. But a huge problem is that we're not. So today, I'm going to help men to reactivate that part of our brains that filters out the BS and give you guys the 7 most prevalent words of wisdom that are complete BS. Now, before I get started here, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Okay, let's get started here. 7 BS proverbs that men should stop believing. Number 1, karma. Another variation of this fallacy is the phrase, what goes around, comes around. Now, this particular maxim states that if you're a good person, do right by people, and live an honest life, then you will be rewarded with a good life, and good things will happen to you. On the other side of the karma coin, if you are a bad person and do bad things, you'll live a terrible life, and bad things will happen to you. The reason this proverb is patently and undoubtedly false as hell is because we see proof of quite literally the opposite every day. There are many, many people who do good things who continually get crapped on by life. No matter how much good they do, no matter how many people they help, life continues to kick them square in the you-know-whats. Yet, we see almost as many people getting rewarded for doing bad things on the regular. That gave birth to the phrase, no good deed goes unpunished. We've all heard that, right? Well, if what goes around really did come back around, if there really was such a thing as a cosmic force that keeps everything in balance, that rights all wrongs, then why do good deeds get punished? Think about that for a minute. Now, there is no greater example that shines a light on the erroneousness of the concept of karma than the state of today's dating market. We as men are told that the better we treat women, the better they treat us. If we are loyal to them, then they will be loyal to us. If we treat them like queens, then they will treat us like kings. If you have had even a modicum of experience with women at all, then you know there is no such thing as karma. In fact, it's quite the opposite, because most women respond more favorably to poor treatment from men. Unappreciative, Disrespectful and sometimes even abusive men enjoy more success and more loyalty from women than men who are respectful, accommodating, gentlemanly, and attentive. The "what goes around comes around" trope is also a statement people cling to in order to cope with a wrong that has been done to them. If a girl cheats on a guy, he'll keep repeating "what goes around comes around" over and over again in his mind to make him feel better about the fact that his ex is getting pounded out by somebody else. Women also use karma as an excuse for bad behavior. They'll go sleep with their boyfriend's best friend and chalk it up to karma because he was so rude to me the other night, so he totally deserved it. Now, some guys might ask, well, what about O.J. Simpson? He got away with murder but then went to jail for a decade. Wrong. O.J. went to jail because he trusted the wrong people and allowed these people to lead him into an obvious trap. Had he exercised better judgment, he would have spent those 9 years in Vegas up to his eyeballs in women and nose candy instead of cleaning prison toilets in Lovelock, Nevada. Don't get me wrong, guys. I am a firm believer that for every sequence, there is a consequence. If you drive drunk enough times, you'll eventually get caught. If you work hard at your craft, you will get better. But the difference between that and karma is that these are things you have direct control over. But if you screw someone over or get screwed over, whatever happens after that has little to do with what you did or what got done to you. Bleep happens. People get away with murder and other terrible things, and people suffer terrible things when they've done mostly good in their lives, and that's all there is to it. Men who believe in karma are simply weak-minded, lazy cowards. They'd rather let the universe handle things because they're too scared to handle it on their own by taking control of their lives. Number 2, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. This is a big one in the black community. Nobody really knows where this started or what it means. But my guess is that someone said it during a conversation, and because it makes sense in an inverse poetic way, it stuck. Here are the facts. There are people out there who don't really stand for much of anything. They are selfish people who are only in it for themselves and are always asking, what's in it for me when surveying any particular situation. This particular breed of human is normally financially shrewd, extremely calculated, and only looks out for themselves and a small group of people close to them. But the characteristic that defines them the most is that they are impossible to get over on. You can't scam these people. They see right through BS and are highly skeptical, meaning they don't fall for anything. Look, just because something sounds great lyrically or has ironic polarity when you say it out loud, stand, fall, doesn't mean it's true. And this particular axiom is a prime example. Number 3, you gotta give respect to get respect. False. Respect is earned, gentlemen, never given. Funny thing is, 99% of the mouths I've heard this come out of are female. And as we all know, females these days aren't good for much of anything outside of hookups. So it stands to reason they say this all the time, knowing full well they don't possess qualities or characteristics worthy of the respect they demand. Something else to consider is that men who disrespect women the most seem to get the most respect from women. Crazy how that works, right? And consider this. Women are confusing respect with liking someone. Just because you don't like someone does not mean you don't respect them. A lot of people hate their bosses, but they respect them. Yeah, but he only respects his boss because he's his boss. He didn't do anything to earn it. Yes, he did. He rose through the ranks and became an effing boss. He earned that title, meaning he earned that respect. Just because you don't sign off on it doesn't mean he doesn't have it. And it's the same with women. If a woman were to get in a fist fight with another woman and loses that fight, she'll respect the other woman. She might not like her, and she definitely didn't like catching a beat down from her. But guess what? She respects that other woman. You're wrong, Donovan, that's fear. Yes, sweetheart, that is fear. And fear and respect go hand in hand. If you fear someone, you respect him. You might not want to, but you do. So the next time a woman utters this falsehood, ignore her, because she probably respects the men who disrespect her the most. Number 4, don't be so hard on yourself. Now, to be fair, this isn't completely false. There are times and situations where people can be harder on themselves than they need to be. That can be a hindrance on one's progress. But once again, this is another slogan used mostly by women. And the reason for this is that women make terrible decisions and engage in stupid and irresponsible behavior almost all the time. A woman gets nailed and bailed on for the 3rd time this week? Don't be so hard on yourself, girl. Mr. Right is out there somewhere. You just gotta keep looking. A woman gets fired from her job for missing too many days? Don't be so hard on yourself. That job was never right for you anyway. A woman's kid gets kicked out of daycare because of bad behavior? Don't be so hard on yourself. You're a great mother. While it is important not to beat yourself up for too long over something, it is equally important to hold yourself accountable. Being hard on yourself is being honest with yourself. As men, we have the ability to say straight up, look, I screwed up because I just screwed up. and move on. Women have to hamster whatever they can to sleep at night. The most successful men in the world are extraordinarily hard on themselves and almost live in a constant state of malcontent. Such is the mindset of a dominant man who's kicking life's ass. Number 5, blood is thicker than water. This is another big one in the black community. Blood is thicker than water means simply that you should always put family first because they are your blood. But most people know that family members can sometimes screw you over worse than people not related to you by blood. This particular saying is usually deployed when a family member is trying to borrow money, keep you around, or any number of things they've got up their sleeves. I'm not suggesting it's used in this way all the time, but I've seen and heard this way too much not to include it on this list. Yes, blood is thicker than water, physically, but it has nothing to do with what it means. Further, just because you're related to someone by blood does not oblige you to favor them. If a family member has screwed you over multiple times and one of your best friends have not, you'll gravitate towards your best friend as a matter of survival and common sense. Number 6, you can't always judge a book by its cover. I remember back when I was 18, maybe 19 years old, I was driving to the store with my youngest brother, who was 6 years younger than I am. We saw this dude driving this gold tricked out Acura Legend with these big shiny chrome rims pull up into the gas station where we were at. A dude got out of another car, leaned into that guy's window for a few seconds, and then left. I remember saying to my brother jokingly, "Man, I'm in the wrong business." And he responded, "How do you know what he does? He could be a doctor." I calmly said, "Maybe, but would you trust him if he were your doctor?" My brother fell silent and shrugged his shoulders in agreement. The fact of the matter is that we all judge people by the way they look and act. A man in a suit who is well-spoken gets better treatment than a man in tattered clothes. Women who are dressed modestly are looked upon with more respect than women who are dressed like working girls. It should come as no surprise that females who spew this garbage the most are the biggest hypocrites when it comes to judging books, as they dismiss men as possible suitors based solely on the way he looks, dresses, and speaks. But believe it or not, that's not a bad thing, because their biological hard drives are programmed to weed out weak, low-value males. If a man dressed in tattered clothes approaches her to strike up conversation, she's got every right to dismiss him. But the pendulum swings both ways. If a high-value man in a suit sees a slovenly, unfit woman in his presence, he quickly makes the judgment that she has no discipline, is unattractive, and would make a terrible significant other, as her cover tells him everything he needs to know about her within the context of a romantic relationship. This so-called proverb reeks of SJW droppings. They would have us believe that abandoning common sense and personal sensibilities would make the world a better place, when they're usually the first to lock their doors when they see a dude with sleeve tattoos wearing a hoodie walking down the street. Now, are there people out here who are more than meets the eye? Of course. There are people in the world who are well off financially but live a modest life. And men who know all the pickup lines couldn't pass a bleep test even if they knew it was coming. But those are the exceptions to the rule, and as we all know, the exception doesn't make the rule. So can you always judge a book by its cover? No, but you can most of the time. Number 7, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Back when I lived in Vegas, my best friend in college used to come and visit me with his wife every summer. Now back in the day, he was a lady killer. He treated girls like absolute garbage and they loved him for it. He got married right out of college and it didn't take his wife long to tame him. Long story short, she turned him into a sniveling, supplicating beta in no time flat. And every time we all got together, the vice she had on his you-know-whats gets squeezed tighter by the second. Needless to say, she doesn't like me very much because I represent the life he could have without her. Anytime I would regale them with a story about this chick or that, she'll shoot a glance at him that says the grass isn't always greener on the other side, written all over her face. This particular falsity sounds as though it was designed specifically to keep men unaware of how awesome their lives would be if they knew the truth about women. As if giving the girl power movement the finger, getting fit, saving money, learning game, and sleeping with beautiful women is a bad alternative to being married to an overweight, cranky female who will divorce you the minute she gets the 7-year itch. In this kind of context, the grass is always greener on the other side. This lifestyle is far more gratifying than living in the Matrix, and men here know and understand this very well. Yes, sometimes a new situation isn't all it's cracked up to be, and yes, it can sometimes burn you to venture into what you believe are greener pastures. But there's another proverb that flies in the face of this one that every man should internalize and live by. Fortune favors the bold. Here are a few more. Here are a few more bonus falsehoods for you. You can't love someone unless you love yourself. I'm not sure where this one came from, but I'd bet the farm it was coined by a woman. Women, who are notoriously insecure and are utterly incapable of loving themselves for a number of reasons, fall in love all the time. My guess is that they use this BS expression when breaking up with a guy with the typical "it's not you, it's me" excuse. Either way, self-love isn't required to express or feel love, and they know it. A woman cannot love herself unless a man loves her first. It is the same concept as a queen. A woman cannot declare herself a queen. Only a king can do that. The self-love fallacy is quite simply the king-queen debate. End of discussion. Here's another one. Age ain't nothing but a number. Funny, age doesn't seem to matter to women when they're underage and sleeping with men in their late 20s, or when they're past the wall and embracing the cougar lifestyle. But as soon as they see men their age dating younger women, they're always the first ones to call him the typical predatory names. Here's another one. Don't put too many irons in the fire. A man should never stop looking for ways to improve himself and better his situation. Using myself as an example, I'm currently working on building a second studio, writing a second book, and plan to do a few live shows in Hawaii and Vegas. Don't get me wrong, a man does need to take time to rest and recharge his batteries. But so long he masters the art of time management and take advantage of the downtime, he can have as many irons in the fires as he wants. Here's one more. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Another falsehood used by women when complaining about what they're not getting. Rather than go about getting his attention the right way by losing weight, being kind, acting feminine, and taking pride in her personal appearance, women are taught that moaning and groaning and complaining all the time is the best way to get what they want from us. They'd rather gripe about the promotion they didn't get instead of working hard and earning it. Now, like I said at the top of this video, there are plenty of proverbs out there that do make sense. Never bite off more than you can chew. Think before you speak. Both of those come to mind. But it would behoove men to stop and take a look at the slogans and mantras we've been privy to our entire lives and break them down and decide for ourselves if there's any truth to them. Just because it's clever, poetic, or has a fancy acronym doesn't make it true. A man should never believe everything he hears or sees. Leave that to females. It's also important to keep in mind that there are shards of truth embedded in some of these conjectures, albeit very minimal. But we should be keenly aware that most conventional wisdom that comes from a culture steeped in the girl power movement is going to be extremely damaging to men, just like the ridiculous happy wife, happy life BS. Next time you hear one of these so-called words of wisdom, take a moment and really think about what it says and decide for yourself whether or not it benefits you as a man. If you do this enough, you'll see that most of them probably don't. If you'd like access to more exclusive content, go to patreon.com/Donovan Sharpe. The link is in the description.